Hi, I have a couple questions, so forgive me. Let's see. I guess the first question was somewhat answered, but I guess the issue of international law and which is the best tactic, this idea of sort of internal citizen pressure, sort of trying to change Americans' minds and sort of saying, no, we need to sort of do right by Hawaii, or is it sort of an external international pressure that's needed, sort of, or sort of a fight from both fronts? That's one question. And the second question is, I guess, and Cleo, this goes to you. Given the idea of sort of balkanization and sort of the racialization of some of those peoples, I wondered in those specific cases, because I know nothing of what is it, Latvia and Estonia, were those racialized peoples? Because I wondered if the idea of, because the issue of sort of ethnicity and race, if there would be a difference in this context versus those contexts. And then my other question is sort of about, sorry, it's just to Julian. It's actually not a question. It's Julian. I used to go protest Vieques, so if you need a body, please, Sukari, Arnie has my, please do email me, and you've got a body waiting. So just take some of those questions.
I think she was asking.
Racialization.
The racial issue. Yeah, the Baltic states, even when they took on the name the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, they knew at the time that a lot of people would confuse them with the Balkans as well. Even to this day, people make that confusion, and it's not unusual. So, but as far as the racial issues,
So my question is, were those white people being occupied by white people?
yes. And
Given that, that's a different scenario. Is all I'm saying.
what I was gonna say is that in each of the countries there is a different ratio of, say, Russians to Estonians, or Russians to Latvians, and Russians to Lithuanians, and it did become an issue depending on which country you're talking about. So we can look at those examples and learn how. Like, for instance, when I went to Latvia, right? Latvia said, don't do your citizenship rules the way that we did it, because we have 1/4 of our population that's non-citizens. And they spoke straight. So these are people that came from Russia during the occupation, but then after the occupation ended, they could either take a test to become a Latvian citizen or go back to their Russian citizenship, and they did neither. So 1/4 of the population is a non-citizen, and they said, that's the wrong way to go. So we can look at the examples that they did and learn from them.
And so, I'm sorry, the issue of sort of the idea versus sort of your heritage versus this idea of there could be a Chinese subject, and this idea of sort of blood quantum versus sort of subjecthood, I guess. That's the issue. That's not an issue for this occupation process. This idea of blood quantum. And the reason I bring it up is because it can be a very divisive issue as a sort of black Indian, although there are many. As soon as we start talking about federal recognition, many of us descendants of freedmen, freed slaves, actually got sort of kicked off the rolls. So it can be a very, very divisive issue, and so I think
Yes,
it's
I agree. Yes.
I think you clarified that. We're not talking about a state. Hawaii was not a state in which there was discrimination practice until 1887, until the Bayonet Constitution. I mean, otherwise the constitutions rigorously protected everyone's right to become citizens. And our basic core belief is that left to itself, Hawaii would have a country that embraced all ethnicities as we did 150 years ago.